Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Anastasia. I'm EPPI-Reviewer Support Officer here at the Epicenter, or Evidence for Policy and Practice Information and Coordinating Center, Institute of Education, UCL, which means that my job is exactly to provide any kind of support for users of EPPI-Reviewer, the software that we develop here at the Epicenter, and make sure that your experience runs as smoothly and trouble-free as it can. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the tool that we developed, EPPI-Reviewer, or evidence synthesis software that is available for Campbell reviewers for free. This workshop is one of the 3 sessions hosted by the EPPI-Reviewer team at the What Works Global Summit this year. And today's session is aimed at people with little to no experience of working in EPPI-Reviewer or any other systematic reviewing software. So let's get started. As you can see, the list of topics that we are to cover today is, well, extensive. We are going to talk what EPPI-Reviewer is and what it can be used for, what needs to be done to get started and obtain access, how to perform some basic tasks like importing items, managing duplicates, distributing and organizing work, etc. I'll briefly talk about machine learning technologies used in EPPI-Reviewer and mention where various instructional and support materials can be found. I do need to start this session from apologizing, because you see that the list of topics is impressive, so I'll probably have to rush through some things from time to time on occasions. However, in general, running a crash course on EPPI-Reviewer that would include all or at least basic features that would allow you to conduct a review from the very beginning to the very end is close to impossible, to be honest. So please do not treat this session as a series of instructions or how-tos that would allow you to conduct a review from the beginning to the end. This is rather a demonstration of EPPI-Reviewer and what it can do. So ideally, at the end of this session, you will have a clear understanding of what EPPI-Reviewer is and if this is the right tool for you and for what you are doing in systematic reviewing or any kind of reviews. Another important note, I know that our session is scheduled to end exactly when other sessions are beginning. So if at the very end of this session, or at any point actually, you need to leave our workshop, please do, that's okay to do so. And some other technical info, I think that you cannot unmute yourself or share your video or switch on your video during this session. So if you've got any comments or a question, please drop a line to the chat. I will try and address all these concerns and questions at the very end of this session. And I do hope that we manage to cover all this topic within 1 hour and have a couple of minutes for questions at the very end. However, if we do not have enough time for this, tomorrow is scheduled another session. This is a drop-in session with our lead developer, Sergio Graziosi, who is going to be there for 1 hour answering all possible questions that you might have. So he's a real expert when it comes to EPPI-Reviewer, and I will invite you and encourage you to join this session and discuss anything that you have in mind with him as well. I think that I'll be there as well. Okay, so I think that we are good to start. Let's jump to the rabbit hole of EPPI-Reviewer. Let's talk about what it is. First of all, this is EPPI-Reviewer, the software designed for managing and analyzing data in order to produce reviews of different types. It was first designed to support methodological work in the Epicenter, but quickly grew into a widely and internationally used tool that we know it is today. It can significantly facilitate conducting a review, as it allows reviewers to conduct the whole review in just one place, from the very beginning, including the search process itself, to the very end, for example, data synthesis, data analysis, and data visualization. It keeps the process explicit and replicable. It allows you to locate full text documents in a very easy way and keep and manage your references in one place. You can work individually on your own review or collaborate with a team of reviewers on one project. It also allows you to visualize data and create interactive evidence gap maps or some kind of charts. And finally, there is a functionality that allows you to update your review or keep a living review. And this list is by no means exhaustive. The main advantage of EPPI-Reviewer over other evidence synthesis software is its flexibility. First of all, EPPI-Reviewer Web is a web-based application, so you do not need to install anything and can access your work, your reviews from any device, from any computer or mobile devices with an active internet connection, including smartphones and tablets. And although it was designed with the idea of systematic reviewing in mind, it can be adapted for various kinds of reviews or data analysis that you need to conduct. And probably the most striking difference that makes EPPI-Reviewer to stand out is the fact that it doesn't have any prescribed workflow. So what we mean is that conventionally, software for systematic reviewing has some kind of a path or a list of obligatory steps that reviewers have to follow and respect in order to conduct a review. This is absolutely not the case with EPPI-Reviewer. In EPPI-Reviewer, everything is user-driven, which means that it's the reviewer who decides how the whole process is going to be organized, how the workload is going to be distributed, what kind of things you're going to perform during working in EPPI-Reviewer, and so on. So the software is not going to tell you what you're supposed to do. It's you exactly who defines what the software can do for you. And finally, my final point here is that the software is still in its development. We constantly update and improve the software. New features are added every few months or so. And we deeply encourage our users to participate in this process. So if you've got any kind of feedback, if you've got any ideas on how the software can be improved or how it should be changed to allow you to perform what you are trying to do, please do let us know. We're always happy to discuss these kind of things with our users, and we always seek new ideas how the software can be further improved and developed. So please do let us know and drop us a line if you've got any kind of suggestions for us. However, the flexibility that EPPI-Reviewer offers to the users has its dark side. So first of all, since the software doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do, it's the reviewer who needs to have a very clear idea of how things should go and how the workload should be organized. Without having this very clear idea and very clear understanding of how things should go, it's very easy to get confused working in EPPI-Reviewer. So that's a necessary requirement if you're going to work with our software. And another thing is that being a huge and highly flexible tool as it is, EPPI-Reviewer does take some time to get familiar with, and you will definitely need to spend some effort for learning its terminology, how things work, what the consequences of every action that you are taking in EPPI-Reviewer are, and things like that. However, to counterbalance this, first of all, we have a wide range of various support and instructional materials available in different forms to guide and help you during working in EPPI-Reviewer. And apart from that, our wonderful support team, which consists of me and my colleague Zach, who's even better than me, we're always happy to help you and to assist you with anything that you are doing in EPPI-Reviewer. If you're not sure about some particular feature or how a particular thing works, please do let us know, and we're always happy to help you to have a look at your review and what you're trying to do and assist you as we can. Okay. If you want to start working in EPPI-Reviewer, but you're not sure where to begin, the first thing that you should know is that there are 3 platforms that allow you to perform different kinds of tasks in EPPI-Reviewer. It's the account manager, the software gateway, and the software itself. So first, the account manager. The link is clickable, by the way, so I think that we are going to share our slides in some way, in some form with you, and you'll be able to follow the links that I provide here. So that's exactly the place where you should go if you want to create a new account, if you want to register with EPPI-Reviewer. That's also the place where you should go if you want to recover your password or your username if you happen to forget them. You can also manage your reviews, for example, change the name. invite other users and change their roles. So in EPPI-Reviewer, you can select, you can choose how much power every user that is invited in your review can have. So you can choose between 3 roles. It's the coding only, so it means that the role is limited to, well, coding, and no other changes can be made. A standard reviewer role, which gives a bit more flexibility, and the admin role that gives almost omnipotence over the review. And also that's the place where you can purchase access for your account, other users' account, or make your review shareable. The last point on this slide is not applicable to you, Campbell reviewers, since we do grant you free access to use EPPI-Reviewer. I'm going to mention how you can obtain it a bit later. The EPPI-Reviewer Gateway is basically a website that contains all necessary information on the software. You can find some news and information about our team. You can access support materials, various webinars, how-to videos, frequently asked questions, and so on. You can get information on fees, licensing, and support that we provide. You can also access EPPI-Reviewer itself by following this link, EPPI Mapper, which I'm going to mention a bit later what it is, and the account manager, and also a risk facility, if you happen to need it. And finally, this software itself, you can open it following this link. You can log into EPPI-Reviewer, link your Archie account to EPPI-Reviewer, also going to mention this a bit later. You can create a new review or work on your existing reviews. So that's the place to go if you want to do that. As I said, Campbell reviewers can have a free access to EPPI-Reviewer. If you want to start working on EPPI-Reviewer, the first thing to do would be to create and activate your user account in the account manager, as I already mentioned. So please do not forget to activate your account. Upon registration, you will receive a link that you need to follow to do that. But without this, the software will not recognize your account, so please do that. Then the standard way of licensing Campbell reviewers in EPPI-Reviewer would be to use your Archie credentials and link them to EPPI-Reviewer. If you open the login page, you can see that there is this section that says for Cochrane authors. That's the one that you should be using if you've got Archie credentials. This way works only for those reviewers who have the official author status on Archie. So if you do, you can simply log to EPPI-Reviewer, link your Archie account to it. If you've got any questions about the process or you need some guidance, we do have a video on our YouTube channel that can assist you and guide you through this process, or just drop us a line to EPPI support and we'll be able to help you, hopefully. Or if you do not have the official author status, first of all, it's a nice idea to think about obtaining one. And secondly, for temporary reviewers or people who are awaiting Archie registration, please contact our support team and we'll find a way to license your account and reviews if you're working on a Campbell review, of course. And finally, if you are to create your own review, you simply log into EPPI-Reviewer and create the review. I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. Or if you are participating in another Campbell review, simply wait patiently until you are invited and you'll be able to see it in the list while you are, as soon as you are. Okay. Some other important points that you need to know if you're starting to work in EPPI-Reviewer. First of all new users get a 1-month trial period for free. It's activated automatically upon registration, and it's applicable to all users, no matter if you're a Campbell reviewer or not. So that's a nice way to try things out and just to see if EPPI-Reviewer is the right tool for you. We also can share any of your personal reviews so that you could invite other users to it. Again, it's a part of trial period, so if you're not sure whether EPPI-Reviewer is the right tool for you, please ask us to share your review, invite other users to it, and see whether it works for what you are trying to do. Another thing, upon registration, each user gets an example review. It's a nice way to, it's a nice place to try things out and we often refers to it as a sandbox, something like that. So it's a place where you can play with different features, try things out without affecting your actual work, your main work. And finally, if you created a new review and you want to invite other users to it, the review must be made shareable. The standard way of making a review shareable is purchasing access in the account manager by paying the fee. Again, this is not applicable to you if you are working on a Campbell review. So the standard way would be to use your Archie ID if the review is already registered with Archie. If it's awaiting the registration or for any other reasons it doesn't have the Archie ID just yet, again, drop us a line to EPPI support and we'll try to find a way to license your review while it doesn't have the Archie ID number. And once the review gets expired, you will keep a read-only access to it. So if you're the creator of the review and your review gets expired, so it doesn't, it's not shareable anymore, but you having an active account, you will maintain full access to it and you'll be able to make any kind of changes to it as long as your account is active. If both your review and your account are not active anymore, they got expired, you keep the read-only access. However, your work can be resumed at any point later. We do not delete any data from EPPI-Reviewer, so even if you want to get back to what you were doing several years ago, you will still find things as you left them. Nothing gets deleted. Okay, and finally, the last thing that I should mention before we start the overview of the software itself is that we currently have 2 versions of EPPI-Reviewer available and supported. It's EPPI-Reviewer 4, which is the previous version of the software, and EPPI-Reviewer Web, which is a newer one. So both versions access the same database. This means that you can open your review in EPPI-Reviewer 4, in EPPI-Reviewer Web as you want. And both versions share most features. Most things that you can do in EPPI-Reviewer 4, you also can do in EPPI-Reviewer Web. EPPI-Reviewer Web is the newer version. It's probably one day it's going to be the only version that we support and further develop. However, at the moment, both are supported because EPPI-Reviewer 4 is the only version that can run a meta-analysis. So if this is what you're planning to do, EPPI-Reviewer 4 is the version that you should be using. However, EPPI-Reviewer 4 being an older version needs Silverlight to run. We haven't found any ways to run EPPI-Reviewer 4 on Mac machines. However, there are some ways to make your Windows machine run it. So please check this page. We've got some instructions on how to make it work on your computer, or again, contact EPPI support and we'll try to find a way for you to use EPPI-Reviewer 4 if you need this version of the software. Finally, we are ready to start working with the software itself. Once you logged in, this is the page that you are going to see. So there are going to be a list of all your reviews. If you're a Campbell reviewer, you're probably going to see 2 different lists. So if a review admin has invited you to any Campbell reviews, proper Campbell reviews, which means that these were registered with Archie ID number, you will see another list of reviews that are Cochrane or Campbell reviews, and another list of the reviews that you have created or where you were invited, the standard ones, not the Campbell ones, or Campbell reviews that were not registered as proper Campbell reviews. So they still can be accessed by standard reviewers as well. And this is the place where you can create a new review if you are starting a new one, or open any reviews where you have invited or that you have already created in the past by clicking its name in the list, or by clicking this button, Coding UI. The difference between these two, so this button, this link, opens a review if you've got full access to it, if your role in this review is not limited to coding only. Clicking on this button will open the coding only interface, which means that you are not going to be able to make any other changes other than coding itself. And you'll be able to see only those items that were assigned personally to you. You won't be able to see the whole list of references in this review. If your role in the review has been limited to coding only, that's the only button that you'll be able to click on. This link is not going to be active for you. Okay, once you open the review, that's what you're going to see. So you've got several tabs at the top: it's Review Home, References, Reports, Search and Classify, and Collaborate. And we are always starting from Review Home. There will be some information on the review that you are currently conducting, and some other things that allow you to perform different actions. If you are starting a new review, it's not going to contain any interesting data. However, if you're participating in a bigger review, or you have already conducted some work on the one that you started, that's what you're going to see. There will be some numbers of included, excluded, deleted, and duplicates items. Please note that these numbers, the included and excluded numbers, do not represent numbers of items that you included or excluded with include-exclude code, so based on your eligibility criteria. These numbers show items that were included or excluded to or from your review as a whole. So basically, if you see this number included, it means that you've got this many items in your review. It doesn't mean that you applied an include code or an include criterion to these items, and the excluded items as well. So these are not the items that you excluded with exclude codes based on your eligibility criteria. These are the ones that were given an exclude flag, so they were explicitly excluded from your review in a different way. So it's okay as you screen if these numbers don't change. They're not supposed to. And then you will see some information on code in progress. So here, this field will contain all coding tools that you have in your review, with all reviewers that participated in coding and use this particular coding tool to screen auto-code some items. Again, next to the coding tools and the reviewers, you will see these numbers with green and red circles. I know that lots of people think that these numbers should represent included and excluded items as you screen. This is not really the case. So these numbers represent complete and incomplete items. Complete items means that coding for these items is done and ready. So basically, no other actions should be taken when it comes to these items. Coding of these items is visible to everyone, and these items will appear in searches, reports, if you run anything like that. And incomplete items are those that still require some attention of reviewers. So the standard thing is that these items were coded in double coding, as part of double coding, and were not compared and reconciled yet. That's the standard way why you have some incomplete items. If items are incomplete, their coding is not visible to other reviewers, and these items do not appear in searches and reports until you actually complete them. Then also on this page, you'll be able to see any announcement that our team wants you to know. For example, here we publish some announcement on further updates, or if there is any work on a preview that we are planning to conduct, or the software is not going to be available for some time in the future. So please check this part if you start to work. And these three small buttons are actually very important. So the feedback button allows you to share any feedback that you might have on the software with us, the support team. But please do not use this button to request our support on your work. We monitor this section, but not daily. So this is not definitely the quickest way to be helped by the support team. The help button is also very important. Basically, this is the way for you to access instructional materials tailored for a particular page where you are on at the moment. It changes depending on what section of EPPI-Reviewer you are currently on. So please do check it. It's basically like an encyclopedia of EPPI-Reviewer, and it covers most of the functions that EPPI-Reviewer can do. Definitely worth checking it. And finally, the support button opens a precompiled email to a review support team. So definitely this is the quickest way to ask us for help on your review. Okay. Finally, you've got 3 buttons over here: My Reviews, My Work, and Sources. And you also can edit your account, edit your review, for example, change a name or anything like that, and some also other technical info. So if you click on My Reviews, that's the way for you to open the list of all reviews that you have or where you've been invited to. So you can navigate through for them without having to come back to the start page that you opened when you logged in. Okay. Next, My Work opens the list of all assignments that were created personally for you. That's the easiest way. If you've been assigned any items to screen, to code, or to do anything else, that's the easiest way to access what's been assigned to you without doing anyone else's work. So that's the easiest way to avoid any overlap in coding or screening. And finally, the Sources button will open the list of sources, so files that you uploaded to EPPI-Reviewer with items, with references that you are going to work with. Okay. And the first thing to do when you start to work in EPPI-Reviewer would be to import references to the software. So once you ran searches through databases and you identified all items that you think might be relevant for your review for work that you are doing, you should export search results as files and import them to EPPI-Reviewer. In Review Home, you can click on this Import Items button, and this will open the form that will allow you to import the files that you have obtained from databases. EPPI-Reviewer supports various file formats, but if you do not find the file format, the right file format in here in this list, don't worry, we've got a RIS export facility on our website in here that will allow you to convert the file that you have into RIS. It covers most file formats, and it's very likely that it will be able to help you to convert your file into RIS. We've got instructions on how to use this tool in here. Please check them, or again, drop us a line to EPPI support and we'll be happy to guide you through this facility. You can also search the PubMed database directly in EPPI-Reviewer. So if you click on the same button, Import References, in Review Home, but go not to Import Items tab, but open the PubMed tab, you'll be able to enter the search string and search PubMed directly in EPPI-Reviewer without having to go to the PubMed site, running a search there, exporting items and importing them to EPPI-Reviewer. You can do it directly from the software. You'll automatically import any references that you find in this way to EPPI-Reviewer without having to download and upload the file again. So it's a very nice way. If the PubMed is the database that you're going to use, that's a nice way to search for it. Just diminishes the amount of work that you need to do. And you also can create items manually. So sometimes it can happen that you just need to add 1 or 2 items or references to your review. In this case, you do not need to have a RIS file or any other file from a database. You can create an item manually by filling all information that you have on this item, typing it in and saving the item, and it will appear in the software as it was as in any other item that was imported from a database. Also a way to do that. Okay, once you imported your items, first of all, you will see the items that you imported, the files that you used in the sources list, and also the number of included items will change. It will show you all items that you have imported. At this point, what you should do, the next step that we conventionally perform is the deduplication process. So if we search through multiple databases, we are very likely to end up with a bunch of items that are actually absolutely identical. So once we search databases, we imported all items to EPPI-Reviewer, that's the point where we should perform deduplication. Because if we start screening or coding, and then we realize that we've got lots of duplicates, and we have to deal with them manually, that is possible to run a deduplication at that point, but it's better if you run it before starting screening or coding, just to avoid the situation when you coded or screened some items and then you ran a deduplication and the items that you coded already get eliminated as duplicates and you have to recode the same items that remained in the software and in the review again. So that's the best way when to perform this. If you want to run the duplication, you go to Review Home, you click on Manage Duplicates, and you click on Get New Duplicates. What is going to happen is the software will compare all items in your review one to another, comparing all information that it has available on them. And we'll try to identify whether any references actually refer to the same study or the same publication. And what you're going to see once the deduplication is run is the list of possible duplicates. These are the groups that contain duplicates of the same reference. And if you open each group, you will have the list of duplicates that the software think are identical. So what is happening in here? So basically, the software compares all the information that it has available on all items, and it highlights various fields that it thinks are different or contain any differences between the items. The brighter the highlight is, the more striking the difference, or the more differences the software identified. And based on that, the software will assign a similarity score to these items. The similarity score ranges from 0 to 1. The closer it is to 1, the more identical items are. And if these items have a similarity score of 1, it means that these items are absolutely identical. What we need to do now is to check all these groups and mark items as duplicates or not duplicates. The first item in the list is called a master. This is the one that is to remain in the review. And any subsequent item in the list can be eliminated from the review as a duplicate, or if the software actually identified items that are not duplicates, you can mark it as not a duplicate, and this item will remain in the review as well. If you think that the first item is actually the one to be eliminated from the review and you want to keep any subsequent item in the group, you can also do that if you mark this item as a master, so they kind of get swapped. And you will keep the first item in the list, which was this one, and will mark any subsequent item as a duplicate if you want to eliminate those. However, obviously, marking all groups that you identify can be quite a laborious task, especially if you've got lots of references in your review. So we do have a mark automatically function. This function automatically checks all groups, and if the group has a similarity score equal 1, it automatically marks all subsequent items in the group other than the first one as duplicates. This is quite a safe function, so you can easily and freely run it without finding any false positive. So it diminishes the amount of work notoriously for you. However, if you still got lots of groups to check manually, you can use an advanced mark automatically feature. Basically, this function allows you to diminish the similarity score. So here in EPPI-Reviewer, we say that anything that is above 0.75 as a similarity score is quite safe to be marked as duplicates. And you can also adjust the coding threshold and the uploaded document threshold. So basically for the deduplication process to consider if any of the items have been coded already, or you have uploaded any documents for any of the references and you want the deduplication, however, consider these items, that's the way that you should change the settings and run the duplication in the way that you want it to be to perform. Okay, and this is the function that allows you to mark all or most of the items that were identified by the software. Okay, so once we run the duplication, we will see that these numbers will change. First of all, the number of duplicates will contain, well, the number of items that we marked as duplicates, and this number, the number of deleted items, will correspond to the number of duplicates. Although it says deleted, these items do not really get deleted from the software, so you will still be able to access them and change your decision if you want to mark as a duplicate another item, the one that you left in the software, and change anything or rerun the duplication at a later point, for example, if you add new items to the software. So absolutely, you can do that if you click on this number, so nothing gets deleted. Okay, once we run the duplication, we are ready to distribute work. In EPPI-Review, it's a nice idea to always create assignments. If no matter if you're working on the review by yourself, or especially, this is especially important if you're working within one review. So if you're working by yourself, creating assignments and assigning items, even all items to you, will allow you to track your progress in a very easy way and to access all items that haven't been screened yet, for example, easily in just one step without having to run searches or in any other ways that would require more time. And if you work with a team, creating assignments will allow you to avoid any overlap between coding. So if you are assigning items for single screening, you will just simply divide all items into batches as you wanted to assign them. And if reviewers stick to their own assignments, no overlap will be created. So that's a nice idea to create assignments and to distribute work in this way. So if you want to create assignments, you go to the Collaborate tab, and we've got two ways on how you can create assignments. The easiest one is to use the Distribute Work wizard. However, there is another way to create assignments, is to create reference groups, to kind of batches of items that you want, and assign them to various reviewers manually. So Distribute Work wizard, as I said, it's the easiest way to create assignments, because it allows you to divide items into batches and assign them to reviewers in an automatic way. And the wizard also checks for you whether all settings are set correctly, if there isn't any discrepancy between what you're trying to do. So the wizard basically works in the following way. You will need to select which items you are distributing and assigning. You will need to select what coding tool you are to use and other reviewers should use, and how many people should screen each item. So basically, you can assign items for single screen, where each item is screened by one person only, or for double screen, where at least two people are screening items, each item. And finally, you will be able to choose which reviewers will participate in this process and how these items are going to be distributed. So you can distribute them manually across all reviewers, or if you hate a particular person particularly much, you can assign more items to one person, and then all the remaining items to the remaining team members as you want. Once you did that, new codes will be created containing batch for each reviewer, and also each reviewer will get a new assignment in the list of the assignments in review home, as we mentioned before. Another way of distributing items would be to create reference groups manually. So basically this feature allows you to create groups, batches of items of the size that you define. For example, you can divide all batches in your review into all items in your review, sorry, into 5 equal groups, or you can create a group that would contain exactly 10% of items from the whole batch of your review or anything like that. So you define the size and the number of the groups. And once the groups are created, you can assign each group manually to one or more reviewers as you wish it to. Once the assignments are created, you will see the list of all assignments and all reviewers in the review. If you go to Collaborator and open this field, coding assignments, so these are all assignments in the review, or each reviewer can check their own assignments in the My Work field in Review Home again. And that's the way that they should access their assignments. That's the way that will allow you to avoid any kind of overlap. So just some important notions before we continue. As I said, it's very important that all reviewers stick to their assignments and do not use any other way of obtaining references to screen, because otherwise it will create a lot of overlap, and that's a bit of a messy thing to deal with. And another important thing that frequently causes issues is that both Distribute Work Wizard and the other way of creating assignments, so create reference group plus create assignments, they do not see if the items have been already allocated to anyone else. So if you want to create one assignment using the wizard or using the reference groups way, and then right away you want to create another assignment choosing all items in the review again, this software will not understand if the items have been assigned to anyone. It will already, it will get again the whole batch of items in the review. So some overlap might be created in this way. So the way to avoid this situation is to use Distribute Work Wizard in one go, and that's it, or to create admin codes that would contain each batch of items that you want to assign to reviewers or to distribute among reviewers. So for example, you have one batch with 10% of items that would be assigned for double screening, and then you create another batch that would contain the remaining 90% of items to be assigned for single screening. That would be the way to avoid any overlap. And then just a practical advice. When you create assignments using Distribute Work or create reference groups, create assignments, new codes will be created in the tools. We are going to talk about the coding tools in a second. But please do rename them right away. It's a very good practice to do that, because otherwise you are going to end up with lots of codes that say group 1, and you won't understand which one was assigned to whom and for what reason. So that's a nice practice to rename them right away to avoid any confusion. Okay, coding tools that we've been talking about them so much. What are those? Basically, coding tools are sets of codes that you use for anything in EPPI Reviewer, for screening, for data extraction, for distributing items, dividing items into batches, or managing items. Some people refer to them as kind of labels that we put on items. Other thing that I've heard is some kind of a folder where we put items or something like that. But basically, yeah, it's anything that we do in EPPI Reviewer is coding. So we apply labels to various items. You can create a coding tool that would work for screening, that would work somehow, would look somehow like that, for data extraction, or for administration or items management. The coding tool can be created from scratch or imported from the list of standard tools, use your own reviews, or publicly available tools. So if you open the review home page, or actually any other page in EPPI Reviewer, you will see this green button on the right. If you click on that, the codes field will be opened and you will see all coding tools created and added to your review. If you're starting a new review, it's going to be empty. So you will need to import or create coding tools that you are to use for screening, data extraction, or anything else. So if you click on this button, you will be able to import coding tool. In the software, we offer the standard review coding sets or the minimal review coding sets. So you can go there and check whether these are going to work for you. Very likely that you will need to edit them a bit, even if you're going to use them in your review. This is possible. It's a possible thing to do. So yeah, just check them out, whether they can help you. You also can import a coding tool from any other review that you have in EPPI-Reviewer, any other review where you've been, that you've created by yourself or to which you have admin rights to. So if you use the same tools and you're going to use the same tools in multiple reviews, you do not have to create the tool from scratch each time in each review. You can simply import them from another review. And we also have a number of publicly available coding tools that other reviewers and users created for their review, and then they asked us to make it publicly available so that other reviewers could use them as well. There are some very useful tools that even if you're not going to use them directly in your review, you could check them just for inspiration to see how things are usually organized, how data extraction tools are organized, and so on. If you want to create your own tool, you open the codes field and you click on Edit Tools. That's the page that you are going to see, and you simply click on Add Coding Tool. When you create a coding tool, you will need to select one of the 3 coding tool types that we have. So it's a standard coding tool, a screening coding tool, and the administration coding tool. So the standard one is adapted for regular coding. It's going to be very useful for data extraction, keyword, or anything like that. Its difference from the other from the screening coding tool type is that it allows for a multi-level structure. So you can have a very complex structure with lots of levels if needed to organize things into topics, subtopics, areas, sub-areas, and so on, as you want it to be. This screening coding tool type is the one that allows you to create, well, a tool for screening. So basically it allows only one level of hierarchy and only includes and excludes codes. And finally, the administration coding tool is kind of similar to the standard one, but it's suitable for items management. So to create allocations, divide items into batches or anything like that, that's the one that you should create. And another thing that you will need to choose is the data entry mode. So we've got a normal mode and the comparison mode. The normal mode is adapted for single screening. And this is the image that you are going to see next to the coding tool once you created it. The idea of the normal data entry mode is that you can, the items get marked as complete as soon as you assign at least one code to it. So it's adapted for single screening. The comparison mode is adapted for double screening. So items are incomplete, even if a reviewer or multiple reviewers code them, unless they are compared and disagreements are reconciled. So that's the one that is more adapted for double screening. Please make sure that the data entry mode is set correctly before starting screening, because otherwise it is going to create a bit of a mess. So if you are screening in the normal mode, but you are supposed to double screen items, this coding is going to be visible to all reviewers, and any other reviewer is not going to be able to add any new coding under their own name. So please make sure that you set the data entry mode correctly. It's very important. Once you created the coding tool, you will need to populate it with different codes. So you simply need to select the coding tool where you want to add children and click on Add Child. You always select the upper level code under which you want to see the new code to add any children. So if it's a screening coding tool, you'll be able to add just one level of codes, but if it's a standard or administration tool, you'll be able to add multiple levels. And each time you add a child, you should select the higher level code, the parent code. Okay, so for example, if I want to add a code to this part, that's the one that I select to add a code under the age code. Okay, and once coding tools are ready, we can assign codes from a given coding tool to each item individually by opening this item and ticking the checkbox next to the code that we want to assign to an item. For example, for screening or data extraction, that would be the way. Or we can assign codes from a given coding tool to items in bulk. Especially for allocations, item management, or administration, that would be the way to do that. So we do not have to assign these codes to each item individually. It makes sense to work with batches of coding. And when you code individual items, for example, you screen items, you can add any textual or numeric data into the info box in here. You can also move codes up and down using these buttons, and you can change the code's name if you need to change anything, or add new codes to the tool. Once you assign some codes to items, you can check all codes, all items under a particular code by selecting this code in the codes field and using with this code button. It will open the list of all items under this code. When you are coding and screening, you can also add relevant and irrelevant terms to your review. So what it means that if you add a list of relevant and irrelevant terms, the software is going to highlight anything that is relevant for your review in green and anything that is irrelevant in red. Well, there are no irrelevant items in this part, but it would be highlighted in red. You can add relevant and irrelevant terms by highlighting any term in the abstract of an individual item and adding relevant or relevant term. Please make sure that this checkbox is ticked, otherwise you won't be able to see any highlights. Or if you already have a list of all relevant and irrelevant terms, you can click on show hide terms and add this list, the list of terms, to the software, marking it as relevant or irrelevant and saving them, and then you'll be able to see these kind of highlights in all abstracts that you have in EPPI-Reviewer, which is a very nice trick to screen. Okay, you can choose between single and double screening in EPPI-Reviewer. So as I said, in single screening, items get marked as complete as soon as at least one code by one reviewer is assigned to them. However, it's not adapted for double screening. So another reviewer can't open the same item and add any coding to it. It will be added under the first reviewer's name. While in double screening, multiple reviewers can screen the same item, all coding will be recorded under the correct name. If you want to set up the software for double screening, what would you need to do is to create assignments using distribute work wizard, or if you want to double code all items in your review, you simply can assign the whole batch to reviewers, or to use the whole batch to access the items to screen or code items. Don't forget that coding is not going to be visible to other reviewers. That's absolutely normal. That's how it's supposed to do. Then you will need to run comparisons between various combinations of reviewers who coded the same items. And then you will need manually complete agreements, choosing whose decisions are going to be marked as complete and will be kept in the review, and reconcile these agreements. At this point, all items that were double coded will be marked as complete. If you want to run a comparison, you need to go to the Collaborate tab, create comparison, and select reviewers to be compared and the coding tool that was used for this screening. You can compare up to 3 reviewers at a time. And once you run the comparison, that's what you're going to see. So you'll be able to see how many items the reviewers agreed on or disagreed on. When you're running a comparison, you'll be able to compare items at the full level. It means that every time reviewers assign different codes to an item is considered to be a disagreement, even if reviewers both agreed to exclude items, but for different reasons. there's going to be a disagreement. Or at exclude-include level, which means that if reviewers assigned different exclude codes, but they agreed that the item should be excluded, it's going to be considered as an agreement as soon as the type of the code is the same. It's an include or exclude. So once you run the comparison, you will need, as I said, to complete agreements and to reconcile these agreements by clicking on this button. What you'll be able to see is the list of all items where reviewers disagreed, which codes they assigned, and you'll be able to make your final decision which coding should be marked as complete and visible to all reviewers and will remain in the review. You also can click on the Show Detailed Review to see the whole coding tool that was used for to code these items and where the discrepancy is located. Once you did that, you are ready to extract data for your review. So what you need to do is to obtain all items that were included at the previous stage of screening or the last stage of screening. You will be able to open each item one by one. And if you already created a data extraction coding tool that looks somehow like that, usually you'll be able to code and extracting data for each item individually by ticking these checkboxes, adding information into the info boxes, or coding text from PDF directly. So in EPPI-Reviewer, you can, first of all, locate PDF documents, full text documents in a very easy way using find on function for each item, which will be able to locate document using OpenAlex dataset, Google or Google Scholar. Or if the item has information on URL or DOI, you can simply click on those and you will open the page that contains the full text document for the relevant publication. Once you obtain the document, you can upload the document to EPPI-Reviewer using this button at the bottom of the item details page and open it directly in the software using this button. Once you've got a document, you can code text from PDF directly in the software. So you basically need to highlight the information that you need to code, select the code that you want to assign to this text, and click on this button. This means that all this information that you code will appear in the tables with the data that you coded once you are ready to run this table. And any other reviewers that open the same document and clicks on this code will be able to see what text you highlighted. So it's a very nice way to store the information from PDFs directly in EPPI-Reviewer. You can also run searches in EPPI-Reviewer, trying to identify items that you are interested in. So we've got lots of options for searches in the software. And we also have an option to combine searches using various Boolean operators that will allow you to identify the batch of items that you're particularly interested in. For example, you can combine a search for, of items coded with a particular coding tool, then not coded with another coding tool, then combine the two by selecting and using this button, and then you'll identify the batch that you're interested in. Finally, once you extracted all the data, you can run various kinds of reports. I guess that I'm going to skip this part because I am desperately running out of time. So just say that you can run various kinds of reports in EPPI-Reviewer. For example, frequency report, which shows how many items were assigned with each code from a given coding tool. You can run a crosstab report that shows, it's like a matrix that shows the relationships between two coding tools. So you'll be able to identify items that were coded by various combinations of codes from the two tools. Finally, you can have a coding report that shows basically all codes that were assigned to an item from a given coding tool or given part of the coding tool. All coding report that can be found in here that shows all codes assigned by all reviewers from a given coding tool to items where this coding tool was used. So please note that this report is the only one that includes incomplete items as well as complete items. So the other ones contain only complete items. A quick question report that shows, all information from a given coding tool or from a given part of a coding tool for selected batch of items or all items if you want to run it for the whole batch. And finally, the configurable report that shows that allows you to create a table with all data that you coded, creating a tailored table, so you can decide which information is going to be visible in which column and how many columns this table is going to have, how codes are going to be gathered in various columns and so on. So you will need to create a template first where you decide which information is going to be visible in the table and how it's going to be summed up and collected in various columns. And this is something like that you can run. So basically you gather all information on participants in one place or information in another place. So you configure it and you define how it's going to look. EPPI Reviewer can also be used to create evidence gap maps. I'm not going to touch on that any in details, because in 2 days, we'll have another session that is devoted completely to evidence gap maps, and Mel, who's the leader of the session, is a real expert when it comes to EPI-Mapper and EPI Visualizer, which are the tools that we use to create this kind of maps. So she'll definitely be able to share tricks and tips with you better than I ever can. Okay, machine learning in EPI Reviewer. So we do have several machine learning functionalities that would allow you to facilitate and speed up the process. First of all, it's an automatic clustering of studies using Lingua 3G engine. It allows you to divide items in your review into, well, let's call it codes or folders, but the names of these codes refer to keywords that were identified automatically by the Lingua 3G engine. So which, if you are conducting any work with keywording, that's probably the thing that's going to be of great help for you. And priority screening and classifiers are the other machine learning functionalities that we have that allow you to organize the screening process in a more, well, in an easier way, probably. Again, I guess I'm going to skip this part because I am out of time already. So what I'm going to say is that the priority screening mechanism allows you to kind of attract, like a magnet, all possible includes in your review. So basically, what is happening is that the list of all items is getting reorganized based on the decision that you have made on including and excluding a sample of items. So the machine learning algorithm would learn from your decisions and would reorganize the list in a more intelligent way so that you get all or most includes at the very beginning of the screening process, instead of just having a screening in a random mode where you can meet and come across impossible includes at any point of time. And the classifier is another machine learning technology. It actually uses the same algorithm, but it works with it in a very different way. Instead of reorganizing the list of items to screen, it divides all items where it applied to into batches, and this is what we hope to get. So we've got a batch of items that was considered to be a possible include or to have to be applied with a particular code, and another batch of items that is not considered to be likely to be applied the same code. So the coding tool that you use to apply classify should be binary. It's either include or exclude, or RCT, not RCT, systematic review, not systematic review, anything like that. Okay, sorry for rushing through things. I haven't, I should have spent less time at the very beginning, I guess. So we also have a functionality in a reviewer that allows you to update your review or keep a living review using a data said that it's called OpenAlex. So OpenAlex is like a repository of words research with lots of records in it. And using OpenAlex in EPPI Reviewer, you can match the items that you included to your review as relevant studies to the items that are present in OpenAlex. And using some machine learning technology, it will give you other possible includes to your review, or if you are updating your review, it will give you all items that have been published and could be relevant for your review since your last search. Okay, I think we are almost there. So if you definitely need some support after I rushed through all the functionalities of EPPI Reviewer and didn't get into the details on any of them. So the support materials that you could use while working in EPPI Reviewers. First of all, the help button, which I mentioned already, which is located in here. As I said, it's basically an encyclopedia on EPPI Reviewer, and definitely will be very helpful for you to check this page if you have any doubts or not sure how the particular function works. We also have lots of webinars, how-to videos, instructions on our website. If you follow this link, you will be able to access all our support materials. This is where you can find it. And please check our YouTube channel. Also, our YouTube channel contains lots of how-to videos and webinars given by our team. And finally, the greatest source of any support or help while you're working in EPPI Reviewer is our support team. So please do email us. Whenever you have a question, if you have any kind of doubts while working in EPPI Reviewer, or you have some feedback for us to share, please, we're always happy to discuss anything that you feel like with you. Okay, so just a quick reminder that we also have other 2 sessions planned during this global summit. So tomorrow, there's going to be a drop-in session with our lead developer, Sergio Graziosi. You'll be able to ask any kind of questions to him, including various technical questions. And he has great expertise on EPPI Reviewer, so he'll be able to help you, I'm sure. And the 3rd session that we planned is the Introduction to Interactive Evidence Gap Maps using EPPI Reviewer, EPPI Mapper, and EPPI Visualizer with Mel Bond, who is a real expert when it comes to maps and these 2 tools that we use to create them. So I would deeply encourage you to join this session, even if you have some experience of working with EPPI Mapper, because we've just updated this application, the EPPI Mapper. So a bunch of new functionalities were added. So please do check the session. You will definitely find it useful. Okay, again, so I need to apologize for rushing through things. I guess the amount of information that I shared with you today was impressive and overwhelming. And I know that lots of other sessions are already they have been started already. So if you need to leave, please do not feel bad about leaving me alone in here. But if you've got any questions, that would be the time to ask, and I still have some minutes, so I'll hang here and try to address any concerns or questions that you might have. Thank you for attention. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat and switch on. Okay. Okay, I can see some questions. So does EPPI Mapper needs a subscription as well? No, EPPI Mapper is a separate application and it's absolutely free. To be honest, you do not even to have a subscription for EPPI Reviewer to use EPPI Mapper. Because if you have a particular kind of report, which is a JSON report, with all data that you have coded on your items, you will be able to use EPPI Mapper for free. But the easiest way to obtain this report is to code data in EPPI Reviewer, run this report, save it, and upload it to EPPI Mapper. But the both tools that are used for evidence gap maps, EPPI Mapper and EPPI Visualizer, are absolutely free to use. EPPI Visualizer is pre-built in EPPI Reviewer itself, so it's not a separate tool. But you do not need to pay for any of those. That's all included. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thank you once again. Again, apologies for rushing through things. I know that the amount of information was overwhelming, but I do hope that I managed to sparkle your interest in EPPI Reviewer, to make you curious about it. Please start your trial period, which I said is activated automatically to all users, no matter if you're from Campbell or not. It's a great way to try things out, and contact us, drop us a line to episupport@ucl.ac.uk if you've got any questions or you have any suggestions, feedback, or anything like that. Thank you again, and see you next time.